Summary and Review of Animal Spirits, How Human Psychology Drives the Economy, and Why It Matters for Global Capitalism, by George Akerlof and Robert Shiller. Introduction. In Animal Spirits, Nobel laureates George Akerlof and Robert Shiller delve into the role of human psychology in driving economic behavior. They argue that traditional economic theories often overlook the irrational and emotional aspects of decision-making, which can have profound effects on markets and economies. The authors aim to reintroduce these animal spirits, a term coined by John Maynard Keynes, into economic analysis, presenting a more realistic understanding of global capitalism. This 2,000-word summary and review will explore the key concepts, arguments, and implications of the book. The concept of animal spirits. Akerlof and Shiller build their thesis around 5 key aspects of human psychology that they believe are crucial for understanding economic behavior: confidence, fairness, corruption and bad faith, money illusion, and stories. These factors, collectively termed animal spirits, are presented as the underlying forces that drive economic activity. 1. Confidence. Confidence is a crucial driver of economic behavior. When people are optimistic about the future, they are more likely to invest, spend, and take risks. Conversely, a lack of confidence can lead to economic stagnation as people become risk-averse. Akerlof and Shiller argue that traditional economic models often fail to account for the role of confidence in shaping market outcomes. 2. Fairness. People's sense of fairness plays a significant role in economic decisions. For example, individuals may reject profitable transactions if they perceive them as unfair. This challenges the traditional economic assumption that people are solely motivated by self-interest. The authors emphasize that considerations of fairness can lead to outcomes that diverge from what classical economic models would predict. 3. Corruption and bad faith. Akerlof and Shiller highlight the importance of trust in economic transactions. When people act in bad faith or engage in corrupt behavior, it undermines the functioning of markets. The authors argue that such behavior is more widespread than traditional economic theories acknowledge and can have severe consequences for economic stability. 4. Money illusion. Money illusion refers to the tendency of people to think in nominal terms rather than real terms. For example, people may be more concerned with the face value of their income rather than its purchasing power. Akerlof and Shiller argue that money illusion can lead to misguided economic decisions and policy errors. 5. Stories. Narratives and stories shape people's perceptions of economic reality. Whether it's the belief in the American dream or the fear of an impending recession, the stories people tell themselves can influence their economic behavior. The authors suggest that understanding these narratives is essential for predicting and managing economic trends. Animal spirits and macroeconomic policy. A significant portion of Animal Spirits is devoted to exploring how these psychological factors influence macroeconomic policy. Akerlof and Shiller critique traditional macroeconomic models, particularly those that rely on the assumption of rational behavior. They argue that such models are often inadequate for explaining real-world economic phenomena, such as financial crises and recessions. The authors contend that economic policymakers need to take animal spirits into account when designing policies. For example, during a financial crisis, restoring confidence is just as important as implementing monetary or fiscal measures. Akerlof and Shiller advocate for a more proactive role for government in stabilizing the economy, challenging the laissez-faire approach that has dominated economic policy in recent decades. Case studies. To illustrate their arguments, Akerlof and Shiller provide several case studies that demonstrate the impact of animal spirits on economic outcomes. These case studies include: 1. The Great Depression. The authors argue that the Great Depression was not just a result of economic factors like deflation and high unemployment, but also a collapse in confidence. They suggest that a better understanding of animal spirits could have led to more effective policy responses at the time. 2. The dot-com bubble. Akerlof and Shiller point to the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s as an example of how irrational exuberance and confidence can drive asset prices to unsustainable levels. When the bubble burst, it led to a sharp decline in investment and a recession. 3. The 2008 financial crisis. The authors discuss how animal spirits contributed to the housing bubble and subsequent financial crisis. They argue that a combination of overconfidence, bad faith, in the form of predatory lending practices, and misguided narratives about the stability of the housing market led to the crisis. Critique of traditional economics. Akerlof and Shiller offer a critique of the efficient market hypothesis and other traditional economic theories that assume markets are rational and self-correcting. They argue that these theories fail to account for the role of psychology in driving economic behavior. For example, the efficient market hypothesis suggests that asset prices always reflect all available information, but Akerlof and Shiller argue that this ignores the influence of irrational factors like herd behavior and overconfidence. The authors also critique the rational expectations theory, which assumes that people make decisions based on accurate predictions of future events. Akerlof and Shiller argue that this assumption is unrealistic, as people are often influenced by their emotions and the stories they believe. Policy recommendations. In light of their findings, Akerlof and Shiller propose several policy recommendations aimed at stabilizing economies and preventing future crises. These include 1. Regulation of financial markets. The authors advocate for stronger regulation of financial markets to prevent the kinds of speculative bubbles that have led to economic crises in the past. They argue that markets are not always self-correcting and that government intervention is necessary to curb excesses. 2. Countercyclical policies. Akerlof and Shiller support the use of countercyclical policies, such as fiscal stimulus and monetary easing, to boost confidence during economic downturns. They argue that these measures can help restore animal spirits and prevent prolonged recessions. 3. Behavioral economics in policymaking. The authors call for greater incorporation of behavioral economics into policymaking. They argue that understanding the psychological factors that drive economic behavior can lead to more effective policies that address the root causes of economic instability. 4. Restoring trust and fairness. Akerlof and Shiller emphasize the importance of restoring trust and fairness in economic transactions. They argue that policies aimed at reducing corruption, improving transparency, and promoting fairness can help rebuild confidence in markets and institutions. Review, strengths and weaknesses. Strengths. 1. Novel perspective. Animal Spirits offers a refreshing perspective on economics by integrating psychology into the analysis. Akerlof and Shiller's approach challenges traditional economic theories and provides a more nuanced understanding of economic behavior. 2. Accessible writing. The book is written in an accessible style, making complex economic concepts understandable to a broader audience. The use of case studies and real-world examples helps to illustrate the author's arguments effectively. 3. Timely insights. Given the book's release in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, its insights into the role of psychology in economic crises are particularly timely. Akerlof and Shiller's analysis of the housing bubble and financial collapse offers valuable lessons for policymakers and economists. 4. Policy relevance. The author's policy recommendations are practical and grounded in real-world concerns. Their call for stronger regulation, countercyclical policies, and behavioral economics in policymaking is both relevant and actionable. Weaknesses. 1. Overemphasis on psychology. While the focus on psychology is a strength, some critics argue that Akerlof and Shiller may overemphasize its role at the expense of other important factors. For example, structural issues like income inequality, technological change, and globalization also play significant roles in shaping economic outcomes, and these factors receive less attention in the book. 2. Lack of empirical evidence. Some critics have pointed out that Animal Spirits lacks empirical evidence to support all of its claims. While the authors provide compelling theoretical arguments and case studies, more quantitative analysis could strengthen their conclusions. 3. Limited scope. The book primarily focuses on developed economies, particularly the United States. This narrow scope may limit the applicability of the author's arguments to other contexts, such as developing economies or economies with different institutional frameworks. 4. Simplistic narratives. While the use of narratives and stories is a key theme in the book, some critics argue that the authors occasionally oversimplify complex economic phenomena. For example, the role of confidence in the Great Depression is important, but the book may downplay other factors like monetary policy and global trade dynamics. Conclusion. Animal Spirits by George Akerlof and Robert Shiller is a thought-provoking exploration of the role of human psychology in economics. The authors challenge traditional economic theories by highlighting the importance of confidence, fairness, corruption, money illusion, and stories in shaping economic behavior. Their critique of the efficient market hypothesis and rational expectations theory offers valuable insights into the limitations of conventional economics. The book's focus on the psychological drivers of economic activity is both a strength and a weakness. While it provides a novel perspective, it may also oversimplify complex economic issues and underplay the role of other factors. Nevertheless, Animal Spirits is a valuable contribution to the field of economics and offers important lessons for policymakers and economists alike. In conclusion, Animal Spirits is essential reading for anyone interested in understanding the psychological underpinnings of economic behavior and the implications for global capitalism. The book's accessible writing, timely insights, and practical policy recommendations make it a significant addition to the literature on behavioral economics and macroeconomic policy. This summary and review capture the core themes, arguments, and critiques of Animal Spirits. If you need further details or elaboration on specific sections, feel free to ask.